Okay, it is 4:33 p.m. We have left executive session and no decisions were making in executive session. No decisions were made in executive session. Next item in the agenda is field asset labeling. Steve, this is one that you'd wanted on the agenda. I'm not sure what you had in mind for this.
Well, I think to some degree, I think you touched on it at our last meeting, and I think that what I'm mostly focused on is the fact that what I'm hearing from you is we must do that, and everything we built to date hasn't been labeled. So there is a magnitude of work ahead of us to get that done, and anything we build going forward, we ought to be labeling as we go. So I think what I got from you is you have more information that you need to gather to ensure that this is done properly and we don't have any missteps. And so, it's just a matter of when are we going to do it. And then I've done what I can to gather information. I've got a little bit of information on labeling tools that we might want to get our hands on, or maybe we're going to just simply ask WCBT to do it. I think the way I got it from Don, I think that they would be happy to take some, or if not all of that on. So I guess if there's no deadline on it, I guess we'll do it when we do it. But in the same token, I do think it's going to be much easier to do if we pre-label things before they leave the warehouse, if we possibly can.
Yeah, so I think to me this is a subset of the general conversation around we need to understand what are going to be the requirements of the BEAD program around auditing and inspection. Because what we do know is that we've never faced a grant with this level of complexity before, and we also, we've never had this is essentially like an indirect federal grant as opposed to the ARPA where the states had a huge amount of control. That I am fully expecting us to be audited for BEAD. I have no idea what that audit might look like, but I expect them to be able to, or I expect that they're going to go out to the field and say, all right, prove that this cable or prove that this splitter or whatnot, like prove that it is BABA compliant. Show me all the paperwork. And what the implications are, in terms of I don't think we need to label every single piece of cable that's in the field, so long as our as-built records specify, what is from where. So some of it might be electronic, some of it might be a physical label. A lot of it is going to be the record keeping of, from purchase order to shipment to inventory to checkout from inventory to installation in the field. So in my head, this isn't. I would call this something different. I'm not sure what I would call it, which is, I don't know, like full life cycle asset tracking for audit purposes, something like that. Of which one of the pieces is where do we actually need to have physical stickers or tags in the field? We've talked before that it would be useful to label our pedestals so that if someone hits them with a truck, they know who to call to have it repaired. But, we've had pedestals in the field for some years. It's never really been a problem. We don't have a ton of them. We should clean it up, but it's not a super urgency. What is urgent to me is that we not start to have a whole bunch of things in our warehouse, and worse yet, check them out from the warehouse for installation in the field without being able to prove, in case we later need it for an audit, that the thing that was installed in this location was BABA compliant. That part. So, yeah, bits and pieces. Any comments or questions? Further discussion on that?
My assumption, Ellie, is that you're going to kick that off as soon as you can.
So. Yep, I will kick this off with urgency once I finish the analysis that we discussed in executive session, because I think that's the top timing priority.
But it also sounds like you're constrained by the fact that you don't know what the rules are related to BEAD. So,
well, some of them, to some degree, I can read the existing NTIA guidance. What I don't know right now is I don't know what exactly our grant agreement is going to say. So it would be helpful to have that, because any work I do in advance of that is going to need to be revisited when we see the grant agreement, because the requirements might change. But, that said, like I said, a lot of the guidance is coming directly from the NTIA. It's not likely to change. We just need to wrap our heads around it and understand what it is. And also, not just understand what it is, but understand how we are going to systematize making sure that it's done and making sure that we have the right record keeping in place, and that is done across what's our service territory and what's WCBT's Green Mountain Access service territory. So that latter bit, that nuance is something, I mean, for the first part, we are lucky to be friendly with an EKCV that's tackling the same thing. So we can be sharing ideas and understandings of this is what the guidance says. Do you understand it the same way? But when it comes to internal systems and tracking and how do we work with our partners at Waitsfield, that's going to be for us to do. So I will also relay that Roger said this morning that Dawn, who's one of the staffers at WCBT, she's been starting to get her head around this as well and just starting to tell people that there's going to be a whole new set of rules and we're not going to be as laissez-faire in the future as we have been in the past around when things are checked out, like which item, and making sure that we don't release bead or BABA cable to a non-BABA project, things like that. So, like, she's aware of it, but what that actually looks like in terms of SOPs and sign-offs and how they're going to ensure that the bad thing doesn't happen, that is what we still need to work through. So it's good that her head is already in the same place. So that's good. Okay, I'm going to move on to updates. So, Finance Committee. Lynn, would you like to give this update?
Thank you. So we had a finance committee meeting last week, and I will say we're really lucky to have this committee. We have many experienced people on that committee. We had a very good conversation about the audit, just about the history of taking on these grants and previous audits, et cetera. It was a really good meeting. And, I'll just kind of put this together with the 2025 audit discussion as well. They have reviewed the audit and the letter. They basically made a motion to, accept the audit, the letter, and to put that forward to the governing committee tomorrow night. And we had a good discussion about the RFP that's out, and it just was a very good discussion. From 22 to 25, a lot has happened. Our previous audits were a little bumpy. This one was not as bumpy. Anyway, I think we have a lot more clarity about the type of federal grants we've received in the past. We won't be receiving that type of grant again moving forward. The BEAD grant is something different, less complicated. So anyway, it was just nice to have the support of the Finance Committee in terms of support and understanding about the bumps that we had along the way in terms of booking grants and all of that. So I don't know. Do you have anything else to add, Ellie? Because I think that was the focus.
Yep, that was the focus, and the Finance Committee will meet again in a couple of weeks when I've finished my more detailed analysis of what are the proposed line extensions and what's the impact on the finances as a result of that. So we'll have a proper, more diligent review of that in a couple of weeks.
So anyway, I mean, just grateful to the folks who agreed to come on to that committee to, offer various perspectives and, really deep experience, financial experience, and some in, relatable to Maple Broadband, not exactly telecommunication, but other experiences that lend themselves well to supporting us and putting out ideas and ways to consider the financial questions that come up for us.
And then the next item on the agenda is the 2025 audit, which I think you've pretty much already touched on, that we
Mhm.
reviewed with the finance committee, and you will have seen if you're on the governing board distribution that the recommendation from the finance committee to the governing board was that the audit be approved tomorrow night.
Mhm.
Steve? You're muted.
Why do I do that to myself? Why? I see something called a governance letter that you distributed to us, which looks like it's a 2-pager from Batchelder. And obviously the audit itself is more substantial than that. Are we planning on distributing the full audit document to our governing board? And if so, when?
I did as part of the board pack that I sent out
Mhm. Yeah.
on Saturday morning.
Governing board.
Mhm.
Okay, I download everything you send and I don't see it here, but
It
okay.
was the financial statements.
Oh, okay, there
Do
it
you see
is. Okay.
it?
Yep.
Okay.
So I mostly want to think about what we're going to do tomorrow night. So are we going to be asking the governing board to approve this? They've had a chance to review it then, so okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of the last box that needs to be checked, at which point we can put it to bed.
And there's an opportunity for people to ask questions if they
Yeah.
have any. Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So the next item then is the affordable drop program. And I will actually, just before I turn over to Alex, I will start. I omitted this in my executive director report, but we did finally execute a grant agreement for this, which I emailed to all of you guys. But for the record, we did receive one, and it is in fact a fixed amount sub award after some back and forth. So that is good. I'm very happy about that. And Alex, what do you want to say?
Yeah, great. The only other important updates, as I mentioned, we signed the agreement with Eustis, who's going to be the construction contractor. We signed that on Friday. They were willing to have a kickoff today on Monday, which is great. We have, as of an hour ago, 16 or 17 people who have applied and been approved to be part of the long drop program. So we are working with Eustis to get the first people into the construction queue and site visit and construction queue, hopefully this week, so that Steve and I can go see their process end to end, and then we can kind of work closely with Eustis for the first couple and ramp it up from there. But 16 in the queue is pretty good. We'll be able to be busy right from the jump, so that's good. And then for the future executive committee meetings, I'll come up with some type of structure for reporting, how many, who got installed, and where in the process is it, and you guys can just give me feedback on what you want to see for these reports.
Sounds good. Anyone have anything else for Alex? Okay, BEAD. What to say about BEAD? So yeah, I think other than what we just talked about earlier with the understanding all of the guidance of the program requirements around asset tracking and that part, the parts that I'm starting to work on now is getting our BEAD project split up into the 4 different NEPA project areas so that we can get the NEPA process going for each of those sequentially, and then also to start to work on the permitting for those, starting with N1, which is the one up in and around Virgins. I don't really have too much else to say about BEAD. Anyone have any questions that I might be able to answer? Okay. All right, parking lot. So let me see. What did I update in the parking lot? Yeah, we did issue the audit RFP from between the last meeting. Steve obtained the conduit work for the Old Town Road, so that's good. The permit for the conduit work. We've talked about field asset labeling, and in relation to the XS24 count cable, part of the work that Vantage Point is doing now is helping us finalize the bill of materials of what we need. And this is for the non-BEAD, obviously, because the 24 count cable that we have, unfortunately, is not BABA compliant. So we need Vantage Point. Sorry, we need JSI to finish separating the work that Vantage Point did on the middle mile between what is needed for BEAD and what is not needed for BEAD, in order to see if some of that 24 count cable will be needed there, and then we can have a look at disposal of those assets and what and how that is allowed under uniform guidance, because these are more expensive components than what we have sold previously. So I need to make sure we understand the rules for that. Anything on the parking lot anyone wants to talk about?
I think we need to do something about the item 31 Old Town Road. It's not quite accurate anymore.
Okay, how should I change it?
There's a guy with a lawnmower outside of my window here, and I don't know if you can hear me very well, but
I can hear you fine.
We have
Noise canceling is great.
we have a permit to do the work that needs to be done, including the work that needs to remediation work that's needed on the west end of Old Town Road. So we have a permit for everything we need. We no longer are riding on Green Mountain Power's permit. As far as I know, Ellie, we should be tracking Old Town Road since it's not constructed yet, but it certainly, there's no permit issue any longer.
Sorry, you're right. My current status had not been updated with the information in the change since last meeting column. So I made that correction. So I'm just going to make it say future work on hold until GMP resumes this summer. Okay. Anyone else have anything else? Okay, any other business to raise? The final thing quickly under future meeting is our next meeting is scheduled for Memorial Day, which is probably not going to work for anyone. Zapata's not here, but we need to talk about when to reschedule that meeting. I think it would be good to reschedule it for that week, like the Tuesday or Wednesday, if possible.
Ellie,
You guys
we're doing, and I don't know if you saw my email, but we did issue an RFP for that cable. We're going to be doing a bid opening on the 18th. So I imagine we're going to need to get the executive committee to approve our proceeding with that. So I don't know if we want to take a look at that, or whether we want to have a small meeting on the 18th at the bid opening, or what you might want to do there.
well, I had thought that I'm not going to be finished with my analysis of what we discussed in executive session by the 18th, probably. I don't think that's enough time to do it the justice that it needs. And so I could be ready with that by the 26th or 27th. If we have the bid opening on the 18th, then we have the information required to do the bid leveling and can come back with a procurement recommendation by that next meeting, that next week after Memorial Day. Lynn?
I think for some reason, I think Wednesdays weren't good for Zapata.
I can't recall. She's not here, but I wanted to find out when you guys were and weren't available, and then I can email her to try and finalize.
Yeah, I can do either day.
I'm good
Same.
on either Tuesday or Wednesday.
Same here.
Okay, Steve?
Yeah, I'm sure it's fine.
Okay, so I will ask Zapata if she can make one day, or I mean, all else being equal, I'd rather move it to the Tuesday so we don't lose another day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll see if she can make that. Okay. Sounds good. I think with that, we can move to adjourn. Okay, I'll stop the recording.
Thanks, everyone.